ACCA, the world's most forward-thinking professional accountancy body.
Welcome to the next episode of ACCA's Careerwise podcast, where we're again joined by HR expert Caroline Bixby and CV guru Neville Rose to discuss LinkedIn profiles and how to really make them pop, how to address neurodiversity in job applications, and finally touching on whether cover letters still have a place in a digital age. Enjoy. So LinkedIn is just a digital CV, right? Or is it more? I guess let's approach it with the do's and don'ts, but let's start with the do's. Caroline, what do you see are the key do's that you should do with a LinkedIn profile?
I think going back to that question of but what is LinkedIn is a really good question to ask. I think it's really good to have an opinion about what LinkedIn is. You could have it on a very superficial level that actually it's just your CV, right? It's a window of your shop and this is where you're doing it. But actually, if you get and you utilise LinkedIn effectively, it becomes part of your network. And what you're wanting to do is creating a brand, because that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're creating this ecosystem here where you're connecting with different people who may have similarities in some of the interests or some of the roles or some of the skills or experience that you have, and you're creating this network. And the difficulty, I've got a daughter who's 28 and a daughter who's 24. They said, well, where do I start with LinkedIn, Mum? What do I do? So I said, right, put your information in, put your basic information, and look at my LinkedIn, and who do you know off there? Because you know some people, send them an invite. So it's about then creating that network, as well as putting information into it. It's about creating that network, and you'll find that your LinkedIn profile will be supplemented with some of the network that you have as well. So do's and don'ts. If you want to be contacted, put your contact details on. A bit obvious, but you would be surprised how many people do not have a contact details. It may be an email address. Clearly, if you're working for an organisation, I wouldn't put the work email address. I would put your personal email address in. It might be a little bit awkward if somebody is approaching you for a job and it goes into your work email. So again, depends how you feel comfortable, whether you put a mobile number in or not. It may be that you don't feel comfortable, and that's absolutely fine. Don't feel pressured that you do. And actually, it's about making sure that you have all the information accurately. So if your name is Caroline and you want to be called Kaz, put Kaz, because that's what you want to be known as. That's who you are. So don't try to be something you're not. Again, this is being authentic you. And put all the details in that you need to, your education, and only relevant education. You don't have to go as far as GCSEs and what grades you have, because clearly it's a professional outlook. You're looking forward rather than backwards in that respect. But I would say if you've just signed up to ACCA, put in there. So, prospective ACCA, it will let you do that from the date and to the date that you propose it's going to be, because you don't know, it may take you a period of time. And I put those additional bits in as well. So it's trying to fill out that profile as much as you possibly can, and then go and find all the people that you know through other people to actually try to click on that are relevant. You don't want to do your auntie who actually isn't in your sector or isn't actually potentially in the working population, who's just on there and who's got a profile, because that doesn't make any sense. But don't be afraid to try and link in with people who you feel they're out of my league. They wouldn't be interested in me. I read an article in the Harvard Business Review a couple of years ago with a guy called Christian Gosson. He ran a global learning platform for KPMG. And I had an interest in gamification and learning platforms at the time. And I read the article and thought, do I reach out to him? So I did. And he accepted. And we had a conversation. And I've actually met him virtually. He lives in Australia. It's a different time zone, But I felt for me at the time, he's out of my league. It's a little bit out of, why would he say yes to me? But he does. And you'll be surprised. I think you'll be surprised the number of people who will actually accept your invitation. And obviously it gives you a chance about why you're wanting to link in with them. Make sure you fill that in. I'm a student, or I'm going into my first role. Interesting bits that you've got on your posts. I listen to it, and actually it's something I'd really like to, if occasionally I could reach out to you for some advice. That's okay. What's the worst could happen is they don't reply. So I think it's be brave.
Be brave and bold. Enjoy the unobvious connections, or the
Yeah,
ones you wouldn't think
absolutely.
of. And Neville, CV writers, part of your services is LinkedIn writing and helping people get their profiles up to scratch. And it's an ever changing platform. What are your sort of top tips?
So you can just use it as an online CV, but you're going to get out of it what you put in. So if you do make that effort and you do make contact with people that perhaps you might initially think, oh, they're too senior for me, they're not going to be interested, do it, because it's a great leveler. Anybody can connect with anybody on LinkedIn, and you just don't know who might be able to help you with your next stage in your career. So try not to use it passively. That if you do use it actively, you're going to it could help you in so many different ways. And taking it back a step further, if you're not on it, you certainly should be. Most young people are fairly familiar with social media, and this really is the social media for the business community. But keep that profile up to date. What you certainly wouldn't want is a CV that says one thing and your LinkedIn profile to say something different.
Right. Yeah.
Make sure that your CV and your LinkedIn profile are aligned. And that could be things like dates of employment, job titles, because quite often, and I see this really often, in fact, the two are completely mismatched. If you have applied for a job and the recruiter's got your CV here, the next thing they might do is to go and have a look at your LinkedIn profile, and the job titles are different, and the dates of employment are all out of kilter. Well, you've just created a big unnecessary question mark on the part of the recruiter. And if they quite like the sound of your application, but now they've got to go back and do some clarification, again, you're going to make that job much more difficult than it needs to be for the recruiter. And if someone has got an aligned CV and LinkedIn profile, then they might just take that one forward because again, that person has paid care and attention to their application. The other thing that I think is a great feature on LinkedIn are recommendations. Most people will feel, quite honoured to be asked. I think very rarely people would say no, and you can get some really nice recommendations. And what could be better than people saying in their own words how they find working with you? It's authentic. It's out there in the public domain. You can even use snippets of those recommendations in your CV as well.
And is there because it's a social media platform? Is it something that it's worth going on every day, doing a little bit of something, even if it's like liking a post or messaging? You know how the sort of social media platforms like to see you engaged and busy.
I think there's a line. I think it's if you're going on every day, it's a quality over quantity. And I think maybe if there's something interesting every week, you might want to spend 15 minutes and doing something that actually you might like a post. But if you do too much, you're liking everything. You've got to be careful about your diluting potentially your brand as such. It's incremental, isn't it? Because over your career, you're going to have an incremental change in what you're doing, and you're going to learn new skills. When you learn a new skill, go on and do and change that on your skills. Put it onto your bullet points. Again, like a CV, you put your bullet points and it's telling the story, etc., from your own career. I just want to mention photographs. Can I make a plea? Don't have any selfies. I know it's difficult, but try and get somebody else to take the photograph. Make it well lit. Please don't wear sunglasses. I know it looks cool, but not on a LinkedIn profile. Try and make sure it's in head and shoulders, and you have relatively neutral background as well, because when you have a busy background, it's very difficult to actually see. And human, you don't have to be suited and booted. If you turn up and you don't look anything like your profile, there's going to be some what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, the big banner at the top, you can put a picture. What sort of picture should you put? Some people have their, if you own a business, they'll have their business, their brand, that's okay. But is there any sort of guidance around that level?
I don't have any real guidance. When I speak to job seekers around this, it's about making it stand out in a business development or a sales capacity. A lot of people will be using their LinkedIn profile in that way. In fact, their LinkedIn profile might even be owned by the company. It might be managed by by the sales team. But when you're using it for job seeking, you're really just using it as a device to sell your brand and your personality. So again, just choose something that kind of fits a little bit with perhaps, I don't know, your value or your ethos or some way of some abstract way of showing that. It may just be that you like the colour of something, you like a picture of something. Just keep it quality. Have a look on a photo library or something like this for something that might complement your profile.
Yeah. Imagine a nice landscape you've taken on holiday.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing is the banner around it. There's a big debate on LinkedIn, and it has been about recruiters, about whether you put open to work or not. And it normally then puts a green banner around you saying open to work. There's been some debate on whether that's a good thing or is that just smacks of desperation. I'm actually pretty neutral because it shows me that somebody wants a job, and I'm not judgmental with that. It only shows to recruiters, but be aware if you're in a business already, it will show to your own company recruiters too.
Yeah. The final question I have about LinkedIn is, as a journalist, I also put in links to articles I've written, but people can also add in projects, PDFs. Is that a good thing to do? Do recruiters look at it? Is it a case of why not? It doesn't hurt anybody. I've always been interested to know if anyone's actually ever looked at anything I've put there.
Yeah, from the perspective of the time-pressed recruiter, if managing projects is part of what you do, I would always encourage that you describe those projects within the employments, because if you're asking someone to kind of click through here and click through there, you're taking them away perhaps from the core element of understanding about your job. You know what people's browsing habits are like. They can sometimes find it difficult to click back again. So I think things like that can be helpful for certain capacities, but as a job seeker, I try to keep it simple. You just might lose their engagement a little bit in that respect. So I would try to describe projects and things that you've done within the profile itself. But of course, if you've won particular awards and you can have a PDF of your certificate, then those should definitely be on there.
Yeah, definitely shout about your ACCA status, whether you're a member, affiliate, what paper you're on. Get it up there front and centre. I find that useful when I'm looking for people on there. Is there anything else you'd like to say about LinkedIn, or we covered all the bases there?
Exactly what you just said about ACCA. So you can actually join groups, and it's really good to join groups because you've got like-minded people. When you do go in a group and then you see other people who are similar to you, and actually on the LinkedIn profile you'll see other people who are similar to you, click on their link, click on it and see what does their profile look like. Is there anything on there that actually thinking, oh, that looks really good? It's a good sense check to say, right, am I missing anything? And the other thing is, as you progress in your accountancy career, more and more recruiters will come and find you, and you'll be a passive applicant. You won't necessarily have to apply for roles. They will come and find you, and they'll find you through your profile. So again, like the CV, make sure the words that you put into your profile are actually relevant for your sector and where you want it to go. So you can manage your own career by actually making sure the words that you have in your profile are for your future career and your current career. So be a bit mindful of actually this is a gateway for your future next step or the step after that. Career activism, isn't it? Where you're constantly looking at the next step. Clearly you can't jump yet and you need to be able to do what you need to do, but it's about you can set yourself up with those contacts for the future.
Yeah, great advice. That's a really good way of looking at the profile. You can very much plan with it, can't you? One of the last things I wanted to talk about was cover letters, but before we got there, and now that we've talked about CVs and LinkedIn, and this is something which will apply to both of those, and it's neurodiversity, disability. How do you talk about those in your CVs and in your LinkedIn profiles? Do you have to? Caroline?
Yeah, I mean, I have ADHD. I mean, I've disclosed that and have done for the last 5 years. And it's a really difficult, very, very personal decision whether you disclose or not. Everybody will be different. You'll have concerns. My daughter also has elements of neurodiversity that she chooses or not chooses to disclose. It's her choice, it's her decision. So no one can tell you you should or shouldn't do it because it's about what you feel comfortable with. I would, if that company has displayed disability confidence scheme, which is run by the government, that means that they're aware of disability and they should be able to put things into place to support you. Also, there's neurodiversity in business, which is another group in the UK and worldwide actually, which is a group of companies, and there's some large companies out there who are part of this group. They sign up to champion the neurodiversity in the workplace. So again, if you see that, feel a little bit of confidence that actually you might be able to talk about that at the right time for you. And there is no wrong or right way of doing it. So whether that's on your CV or whether that's actually when you go and have a chat with somebody on the phone, whether you go in and talk to somebody or when you start, typically a recruiter will ask you if there's anything that we can do to support you, or is there any other anything that we should know about to support you through your process. And there's a fear there that actually if I disclose, they're going to use that against me. So again, it's that whole bit of actually, again, if you're confident to do that and they ask you, so well, actually, yes, and my situation is this, and I find it difficult when I have information given to me last minute, for example, is there anything you can do to help me with that? And I have put things into place where I've actually given out the interview questions ahead of time. I've assigned a coach to that person. They've talked through the process, talked through the questions with them. They've met them on that day of the interview and talked with them for 15, 20 minutes beforehand to calm them down, to get them in a mode that they can do their best. Because that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about making sure that person can really display the best. Whether they get the job or not doesn't make any difference. It's about making sure they have that equity of opportunity. And also they're following up with them about making sure that they have everything. Any assessments. Do you need additional time, or do you need it in a different format? Do you need it into a written or a spoken one? Do you need somebody to help you? And there are all sorts of stuff going on with access to work, which enables you to have support and help when you go into the workplace. So you can apply it before you actually apply for it before you get into the workplace. So don't feel afraid. There's so many things out there that people just don't know about. There's lots of resources. I mean, I think that's probably another podcast on its own, but there's so many things out there that people just don't know about, that don't feel that you're alone, because you're not. I suspect that at least 1, 2, 3, 4 people in that organisation is already neurodivergent as well. And don't feel it's you. It's often not you, it's them. So if you have a bad experience, just accept it's them, not me, and walk away head held high onto that next opportunity for the right place for you.
Yeah. And Neville, are you seeing more people ask about this?
It's an interesting one, and this is something obviously that's much closer to Caroline.
Sure.
So I will bow to her better judgment on these things, but I don't see many people disclosing disabilities in their CVs or their applications. There's no legal requirement to do so, and Caroline, correct me if I'm
No,
wrong.
there's not.
Unless it were to impair your ability to do a job, is that right?
There's no requirement to disclose at any time.
Obviously, if it impairs a job, you might go through a different process, but there's no requirement at all.
Yeah, so so it then does come down to it being a very personal choice to do. Yeah. If you felt that it would discourage the employer from taking your application forward, then obviously you make that choice and not to do that. That's a shame, in my personal opinion, because I think generally it's better to be open up front about things, and and let's manage expectations, all the way through. And eventually, as an applicant, you're going to find yourself with the right employer, because an applicant, an employer who receives that positively is exactly what you want to happen through, and they will help you through the journey and make whatever provisions. And so yes, it is a personal thing, but there's no requirement to do so. So most people tend not to include that kind of things. But it would be interesting to see as we become a bit more open as a society, and that might change over time.
Yeah, will be interesting to see, because there is a change. It seems you don't know how much the rubber is hitting the road, but you hear talk of it, so hopefully there's a change for the better. The last thing to talk about is cover letters. Now, they don't obviously get sent by post anymore, so a nice handwritten cover letter is not the go, but I imagine cover letters now, it's an email or it's an online form, but they're still very important. Is it the first thing that someone's going to see ultimately if the option to provide something like that is there?
Yeah, so we did some research a few years back on how employers perceived cover letters, and we found a real divergency of opinion. So something like 30% were very much in favour, 30% were very much, just wouldn't even look at them if they came in. So it depends very much on the attitude of a particular employer. But if you are asked to provide a cover letter, it makes sense to do so, because why would you miss out on an opportunity to give a very direct message about why you should be considered for that role? And if you think about it, a CV is quite restrictive in its kind of structure. Whereas a cover letter really is a direct appeal that you can make, where you can just answer that question: why should I be considered for that role? What am I going to bring? And to write in a very kind of punchy, no more than 2 or 3 short paragraphs, why you would be an ideal fit for that role. And it's your opportunity to make that appeal, to answer that appeal. And so, always do that if you're given the opportunity.
Are you trying to condense your career into a couple of paragraphs, or?
I think it's just trying to answer that one question using a little bit of example. So, for example, I've done this or that, but also, and then it's just a little bit about the skills and qualities that you'll bring to that role. So it's a combination of both, but keep it brief and punchy.
Yeah. Would you agree with that, Carol? As a receiver, do you get them? Do you ask for them?
I ask for them sometimes, but it's not often I get them. I love a good cover letter because it gives me a bit of a chance to look at the personality of the individual. If anybody ever comes for a job with me, if you do a cover letter, 100% I'm going to give you more than 10 seconds. I will give you a lot more of my time, and you are automatically right up there in terms of actually you've made the effort and you've linked your experience and the skills in terms of potted history to the role that actually I've got. So you've actually read it, and it shows me that you've taken a little bit more care. But it's like anything, isn't it? If it's a very transactional role, possibly not. If you've got not much to say, you might think early careers, I haven't got much to say in there. I can't give you much. And I can understand that actually a cover letter will be excruciatingly difficult for you, because what you put in there, it's, you don't want to waffle. You want to be able to be, as you say, punchy. But I accept it, but I love a good cover letter.
Would a cover letter come as like an attachment to an email alongside the CV, or would it be in the email?
Rarely on an email. I rarely get any CVs on an email. Mostly they come through the platforms that I use, so LinkedIn, Indeed, the rest of them that come through. It's something that you upload alongside a CV, so I do open it, and it's another thing. So it's very rare that I get an email, so I don't have that opportunity to have an introduction. So consider it to be an introduction. We don't know each other. How are you going to introduce yourself to me? And that's what, for me, a cover letter is.
There we go. Still important. Well, guys, I think that's covered everything I wanted to ask. That was a great conversation. I don't think we've missed anything. Thanks very much for listening, and thanks to our guests Caroline and Neville. Until next time. For more career advice, check out the ACCA Careers website and the Student Accountant app. And if you have something in particular you'd like me to cover in the series, get in touch at studentaccountant@acccaglobal.com.
This podcast was brought to you by ACCA. Find out how we think ahead at acccaglobal.com.